Hi there and welcome. This is Jenna from McGuire and I'm very thankful you're here today. So this video is another in my ideas for creating easel cards. Easel cards are super easy and you can use products you have on hand. Today I'll show you how to make a 5x7 easel card, two different versions, and a slimline easel card. But I had so much fun putting this video together because I played with a new product collection that I was so excited to try. And it is brilliantly designed. It's the Missees collection, and it's a bunch of stamps and dies that you can use in different ways together to create ladies and girls that look exactly like you want them to. Now, I'll show you a bunch of different options today, but know there are endless possibilities with this collection, and I will link to the creators' videos and such below so you can find more if you're interested. It really is fun to make a card super personalized like this. This collection's been really popular. In fact, a few weeks ago when I made these cards, I shared a sneak peek over in my new Facebook group. I have a new group. It's called Share Handmade Kindness, and I'd love for you to join us. It's myself and some of my friends, and we are having a great time. So this group is all about sharing the positive of our industry and sharing the different creations that we make. If you are interested in joining, we'd love to have you. I'll have a link below. Just be sure to answer the 3 questions so we can make sure they're not spammy accounts, and we would really be happy to see you there. All right, let's jump into making the people first. This Missees collection is a huge collection, and I'm just showing some of it today. I was most excited about these die sets that also include some stamps. The main one is the Missees Betty Stamps and Die Set. I call this the main one because this includes the head and shoulders. So it's like the base for all of the other collections. You can also see in this set there are different accessories, collars, and hairdos that you can add to this piece. So you can make some creations just out of this one set. There's also a small stamp set included, and it will do some of the facial expressions to add to it. Now, in addition to that main Betty set, there are 2 other die sets that have small stamp sets in it. So these are add-ons to the Betty. This is the Carol die and stamp set. So you can see all the different hairs in here, little accessories. They are so much fun to build to create different people. So this one, I actually use all 3 of them today, but you can look at them and decide which kind of has the look that you would normally need. But that Betty is the main one that has the head and the shoulders. But you can see you can get completely different looks by adding these additional dies to the Betty. Now, not only are there different dies in the set, there's a little stamp set that's different too, so you can create a different facial expression. So there's different eyes and nose, and then also different mouths. So you can really create a bunch of different characters from the few sets. The second add-on set that goes with the Betty, that main one I first showed you, is called Tasha. Again, you have all these different hair and accessory dies and a small stamp set with additional accessories and facial expressions. So I did use all 3 of these in today's video because it's really fun to be able to mix and match them and get a really endless number of options. So I knew I was going to use these a lot, and already Lila has been using them too, so I wanted to keep them very organized. So what I decided to do was get some Lawn Fawn magnetic boards. These come in 2 different sizes. I took the larger of the 2, and I put all the dies towards the top and the stamp set towards the bottom. So this happens to be the Betty set that you see here. I then traced all of the dies with a black Sharpie onto the magnetic sheet. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but I can see it in real life. And that way I don't mix up the different dies, and I know which dies go with different sets. I found this really helpful to do, and then I just slid it right into a job ticket holder. You can see that behind it, and I have this for all the 3 different sets. This just kept everything really organized as I had a great time mixing and matching. And by the way, I just used double-sided tape to stick the stamp set to the bottom of the magnetic board. So as I mentioned, my favorite of the Missees collection are these die sets that have the small stamp set included, but there are also stamp sets available. So if you prefer to create your people out of stamps, you have that option too. That way you could even color them however you want. You could paint them, anything. For me, I enjoy die cutting, so that's why I prefer it. So let me show you the stamp sets because I did use some of the images from them. This is the Melanie set. This is the basic base set for the stamp sets. So just like the Betty was for the dies, the Melanie is the base one for the stamp sets because you can see there's the head and shoulders included there. Now, one of the add-ons for that is the Miranda set. So this stamp set can be used with that last stamp set or with the dies from earlier. You'll see me use the necklace from the set in this video today on one of the die cuts. And then there is the Tatjana stamp set, which is another add-on to the Melanie set. So again, there are 3 die sets and 3 stamp sets, and they can all be intermixed. It is so much fun playing with these because it's like playing with paper dolls when we were kids, and they are nice and large. So you could create like a project out of them, something you frame, or you can create a card with a couple people on it or a larger size card. So it's a fun size for card making and other projects. Now there are a lot more products in the Misses collection, and there's one more that I'll use in today's video. It is this die set here that has so many dies in it, lots of different banners and basic shapes and even an envelope. I'll be using the little speech bubble along with the word hi, which I think is super cute and goes well with the little people we'll be creating. Now, as I said, lots of things in this collection. I encourage you to check it out. There are stickers, there's rub-ons, there's washi tapes, anything you can imagine. So if you like other things besides stamps and dies, I encourage you to check it out. I'm a stamp and die girl, so that's what I'll focus on today. Now, as far as cardstocks to use with these, we needed some skin and hair tones. I found that this memory box paper pack, this is the Earth paper pack, has lots of great options. There are 12 different colors in here. And so some of these work great for hair colors and skin colors. I also found that if you can't find the right color cardstock, you could also use white and then use a marker to color it the right color. Copic markers are great for that. But today I use these cardstocks, and then I also use some of the like soft peach colors. There's like a really pale peach, which worked for my skin color, in the Sunny pack from Memory Box 2. So look around at what you have, and if you can't find the right hair or skin tones for the people that you're creating, you could always ink them or use markers. I did end up using the other color collections from these Memory Box paper packs. These are on my favorites list because I think they are so well done. So all of the clothes and accessories that I die cut today are also from these paper packs. I did use a couple skin colors from regular cardstock that I had on hand, but most of my cardstock today are from these Memory Box paper packs. So I went to town cutting a bunch of shoulders and heads to have on hand for future cards. I'll use some of these today, but not all of them. But it's nice to just get a bunch done to keep on hand when we want to create people to personalize a card. Now the head and the shoulders are separate, so I just cut little cardstock scraps to connect them from the back. That way you can tilt the head, you can make the neck longer or shorter. The options and the way to change up the look of these is really easy, and you'll see that as I put more together. But usually I don't connect the head and the shoulders until I'm ready to make a person out of them, so I can kind of tilt their heads or whatever as needed. Okay, let's start creating. My first card is for one of my very best friends, and that is Gina Krupski. So I did Gina over there on the right, and that's me over there on the left. And it was so much fun coming up with ways to make them look like us. This is a 5x7 vertical easel card. Let's create the people first, so you can see the little head and shoulders that I have there. The first step that I like to do is stamp the faces on it. Remember, you can switch out the eyes and the mouth so you can have different looks on each. But I feel like if you start by stamping the face, it makes it more realistic as you add the hair. So I die cut a few different options, and I'm first starting out by making Gina. Now watch, as you move these different pieces together, you can create so many different looks. So here's someone with short hair, here's somebody with even a little bit longer hair, then there's a ponytail, just moving the pieces around. There's a bun. So just by moving the pieces around, you can get completely different looks from just the one die cut. So I kept playing around until I got what I felt looked like Gina. She has dark, beautiful hair with lots of layers. Her daughter cuts her hair and it is incredible. I need to get up there after COVID and get a better haircut. And she also wears headbands sometimes, so I thought I would add that. Her favorite color is pool, just like mine, so I'm definitely making a pool-colored headband for her. Now for me, I have slightly lighter hair, and I thought I'd play with some different options here. You can do little pigtails, which looks like Lila. You could do one ponytail, which is what I look like in quarantine all the time, or you could have long hair. Once I had the different options, I started gluing the pieces together. I even added extra die-cut hair pieces to add the look of layering for Gina's hair. I used a little bit of a tape runner to put the pieces together so that in case I wanted to move them afterwards, I could. Then after the card is all finished, I'll do a little squeeze of strong liquid adhesive under all the pieces to make sure they stay. Now for me, I was going to go with the long hair, but my hair is so stinking long now from quarantine. I've only had it cut once in the last year and a half. So I decided to just do a ponytail as it is in real life. My hair is always pulled back. And then I added little glasses onto Gina. She wears really fun glasses. I may go back and heat emboss some fun aqua embossing powder on the glasses so that her glasses have like a shiny, marbly looking aqua color to them. But for now, I have them in black. Again, I'm just using a light amount of adhesive until I'm happy with where everything is. At this point, Gina and I are quite naked, so it's time to put on some clothes. So I cut the shoulder die from blue color cardstock, and then you have these different options for the collars on the shirt. I love that you can change them up completely to get different looks. So I did different colors of pool cardstock because we both love that aqua color. And there's even these little die cuts that create the collar and the little buttons going down the shirt. So much fun to arrange these in different ways. Now I just stuck with those memory box paper packs I showed you earlier, lots of colors in there, but you could use pattern papers or even specialty cardstocks for this. Now if you wanted to just add these onto a card, you should be good to go at this point. However, I'm doing an easel card and you might see the back of these people if the person looks from the back side of the card. So I am adding additional cardstock to the back just so it looks nice from that side too. It's very easy to do, just cut additional pieces of whatever you put on the front and then you'll be good. For example, right now I am completely bald in the back of my head except for the ponytail at the base of my head. It's not really a good look, so you can add those pieces just in case you see from the other side. So again, if you're just gluing this on a card, you don't have to worry about it, but it's something to keep in mind if you do the easel card as I show you. Now, one thing I like to do is use a white gel pen to color in the teeth on the little facial expressions and also do some highlights in the eye. You can also use a light pink marker to add a little bit like to the tongue or the lips too. So right now they're that skin tone color because we just stamped the images with black, but adding that little bit of white gel pen or pink marker really makes a big difference. I also used some holographic cardstock to create little earrings for my ears and then little necklaces to go on Gina's neck. So you can use those specialty cardstocks for those little accessories if you want to. I even did it for the buttons going down my shirt. I also added a little bit of RV10 or R30 to the cheeks just for a little bit of color, but you could totally skip that or use a little inking tool and some ink if you prefer. Okay, now that our people are ready, let's create our 5x7 vertical easel card. Now, this would require a piece of cardstock that's really long. Don't have that, so I'm going to piece together smaller pieces. First, I want to create a 5x7 piece that has nice faux stitching on the inside edge. You don't need to do this, but I like that definition. This is the W+9 5x7 layering die set, and I'm cutting that largest piece from some pool cardstock. Next, we need our folded pieces for the easel card. The first piece is 5 by 8.5 inches. This piece we will score 1.5 inches from one end. When we score at 1.5 inches from one end, we end up with a 7-inch long piece from that score line to the other end. So from this score line to the far end is 7 inches. So that would be a 5 by 7 inch card, right? Okay, so now I've got this piece done. Again, that's 7 inches between my hands. I'll rotate that piece and score halfway between the end and our score line. So that's at 3.5 inches. You really don't need to understand all the measurements, just follow what I'm doing and it'll come together nicely. Okay, so now we have this piece that is scored 1.5 inches from one end and 3.5 from the other. Then I have my 5 by 7 inch piece that I cut with the W+9 die. I'm putting liquid adhesive on this little flap and then gluing the 5 by 7 inch die cut right up against that. This forms our easel card. Normally I create an easel card from one piece of cardstock, but this is so big I needed to glue two together. There you can see the easel function. I want the back to look nice, and right now there's that seam right there across the top. Also I want it to be nice and strong. So I die cut another of the 5 by 7 stitched frames, and I'm gluing that to the back of it just to give it a nice finished look and that added durability. Now this next step is one you don't have to do, but it's an example of something you can do to make your card stand a little stronger and look a little better. Now on the front of this, I wanted some extra strength. So I cut another of the 5 by 7 stitched rectangles. I cut it in half at 3.5 inches. One half I'm gluing at the top here above the score line, and one half I'll glue below the score line. This gives the faux stitching on the front, and it also gives some extra strength to it. The reason I cut it in half right there at the center is so it'll fold nice and easy for that easel card function. This creates a nice base to add our little characters to. Okay, now you see that white panel there where it says I really? This is a white panel that has white stitching on the inside edge. This is one of those details you could skip, but I wanted to show you this is a great way to stretch your faux stitching rectangle dies to get different size rectangles. So here's that large 5 by 7 faux stitching rectangle die. I'm cutting it from white cardstock, so I ran it through my die cut machine. Now I'm offsetting it a little bit. Watch, I'm just going to line it up with the edges so I have it about 1 inch from the edge. Run it through again and look at this. It's a thin rectangle with faux stitching all on the inside edge. So I thought that would match the outside edge of the entire easel card nicely. Next, I wanted to add the letters for I really. The Miss You will be on the inside. This is from a My Favorite Things die that I've used before. I love this die. It fills the front of a 4.25 by 5.5 inch card nicely, but here I'm going to break up the sentiment. So I have the negative space for the words I really, and I'm just taping it temporarily onto the center of that white panel. I'm using that negative space as just a guide to place the letters for I really onto the white panel and make sure I get the spacing right and get it nice and centered. Once those letters are dry, I can remove the negative space and my letters will be perfectly placed. Now these letters are 3 die cuts thick. So I cut 3 die cuts of each letter and glued them on top of each other to make sure they stood out. Now on the inside of my easel card towards the bottom, I have the Miss You. So I temporarily taped the negative space for Miss You, and I'm popping in 1 layer of each of the letter die cuts. Once I have those all glued in place, as you see I'm doing here, I can remove that negative space and all my letters are positioned nicely. This trick works really well in getting that spacing just right. Okay, here is a look at the completed card. I did add some white heart die cuts from that additional die set I showed you from the Misses collection earlier in this video. I also added 3 little dots after the word really, so it shows that the sentiment is continued on the inside. Okay, so now I can open up my easel card and you see the rest of the sentiment. And you can also prop the front of the easel card against the letters Miss You, and it'll stand up nicely on display. You can see how those 2 Misses people that I added to the front fit nicely on a 5 by 7 card, but you could always put a single person on a smaller 4.25 by 5.5 inch card. I know there are many people out there who watch my videos who make 5 by 7 cards, and that's why I'm trying to make more of them in my videos. But if you're new to 5x7 cards, I encourage you to try it. It's a fun, nice change. And I will link below to some basic white envelopes that are great for those 5x7 cards. Okay, let's move on to my next example. This is an easel card for a slimline version. And this has an adorable little girl holding a balloon that sticks up when you prop up the easel. So Lila and I were putting together a box of things to send to my friend Pam's granddaughter. And we thought it would be really fun if we put in a card that looked just like her granddaughter. And that's what I'm creating now. You can see just by shifting these little die cuts, you can completely change the look of the person. So I'm thinking with all of the different die sets that the Misses collection has, you can create somebody who looks just like a lady or a female or a girl in your life. I am hoping that in the future they add a men's collection so that we can create those characters too. So I just die cut a bunch of pieces and move them around until I got the look that I wanted. So I'm going to skip through the creation of this one and the rest of the characters in this video so I can show you the easel card feature. Okay, so now for this slimline vertical easel card, you need a piece of cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 9 inches. Here's a slimline envelope so you can see how that card will fit in that envelope in the end. But I'm going to create a card that is 3 3/4 by 9 inches. You can do whatever size you want. I cut 2 pieces of white cardstock to that size. Next, I have a piece of white cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 11 inches, so it's a little bit longer. That's the one where we're going to do our score lines to form the easel. So this again is 3 3/4 by 11 inches. We'll need to score this in 2 places. The first is 2 inches from one end. So I'll score that and fold it. Then I will rotate this piece. And from the other end, we'll score again, but at 4 1/4 inches. So this end will form the folded part of our easel card. So you can see it folded here. Now on this smaller flap on the inside, I'm putting liquid adhesive like we did on the last example. And I'm going to cut a little bit off these corners, just so it looks nice from the edge of the card. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Now remember how I have those other 2 pieces that are 3 3/4 inches by 9 inches. I'm gluing one right onto that flap, and that'll be the inside of the card. The other will get glued to the back of that to hide that seam on the back, but also to give it some strength and durability. So I'm putting liquid adhesive there and gluing that on the back. And now we have a fun vertical slimline easel card. We can add our little girl to this now, and then the balloon in her hand. One of the die sets I showed you earlier has a hand included, so you can make it look like they're doing a high five or have their hands in the air. Well, I'm going to make it look like she's holding a balloon. So I created a hand with a sleeve on it, and then I cut 2 very thin strips of white cardstock to represent the string holding the balloon. Then for the balloon, I actually used that head die. Remember the head die that we created all of our faces from? I created 2 pink ones and glued one on the front and one on the back of those white cardstock strips. Then I created 2 little tiny triangles to put at the bottom. So that balloon there was really created from the head die. Now I will put all these pieces together to hold the balloon on the front along with the little girl. So I'm putting liquid adhesive on the back of the girl. You can do double-sided adhesive if you want. The reason I like liquid adhesive is I can wiggle it until it's positioned just right. I didn't put the adhesive too high on her hair because I only want the glue to be below that score line on the front of the easel card. We don't want to glue the card shut. So I've got her glued there and I'm trimming off the excess. So you can see how I'm able to open and close that easel. Now we need to add the hand and the balloon. So I folded her fingers to make it look like she's holding the balloon, and then I'll glue those down. Again, the string on that balloon is just 2 pieces of very thin cardstock glued together. I'll end up adding more to that for support. So I'm going to fold her fingers around the string of the balloon, and then I'll put some glue there to make sure that it doesn't move. But again, any glue I do is below the score line at the center of that easel card because we want it to be able to pop up. Now once that glue dries, I'm testing it to see if that thin cardstock for the balloon string was strong enough, and it's a little bit floppy. I could have probably used wire, but I didn't have any. So what I'll do is just flip this over, and on the back of the balloon, add a couple more thin cardstock strips to the balloon string just to give it some more strength. A lot of the fun of creating scene cards like this is just experimenting and seeing what you need to do to make the card work. So now that balloon stands up nice and tall, and I know that it'll stand up when the recipient gets it. Now to finish off this card, I just added some embellishments. First, I used some sequins from the Missees collection. Remember earlier I said there's a lot in this collection? One thing they have are these set of 3 bottles. The peach, the pink, and the gold all are sets of 3, small, medium, and large, of flat circles. Nice and perfect for accenting a card, and I'll use some of those. I also used the Honeybee Tailgate alphabet dies. I spelled the name, which is a great way to add even more personalization. And then I arranged the letters on my sticky mat, as you see here. That way I could make sure they were spaced just right. Notice that they're not lined up. What I'll do is put some tape over the first word, sweet, and pick all those letters up together. Then I can put liquid adhesive on these letters and add it to my card, and when I do so, I can make sure they're centered. These words will be on the inside of the card and what the easel card props up against so it can stand on display. Then once it's dry, I can remove the tape and go on to the next word, put adhesive on the back of that, and line that up. Now my letters are centered nicely and spaced nicely. Okay, so let's look at the completed card. So here you can see what it looks like when you take it out of the envelope. I did add some little gold sequins like I showed you before to the background because they catch a light nicely. Now when you open this, it folds open, and I put 2 pieces of thin cardstock, that dark pink cardstock, across right above the word sweet. And that is a little stopper for the easel card to rest against. And you can see how the balloon sticks out the top. So I thought this was a fun design for a little girl, and it's great for birthday occasions too. This easel slimline card would also work for fun tall scenes, such as maybe little unicorns flying in the sky, some clouds, or even maybe a critter holding a balloon. Okay, my third example is another 5x7 card like before, but it is a side or a horizontal card. So I made this card to look like my friend Candace. That's her over on the left, and then me over on the right. She is a beautiful human being, and I am very immature, so that's why I have my tongue sticking out on the one that I made for me. But one thing we both love fun jewelry. So I wanted to add fun jewelry to both of our little people. So I just used the different dies, as I showed you before, to create the clothes, the earrings, and the necklace for us. For Candace's necklace, I stamped with Versamark ink, and then I used a silver glitter embossing powder. It's really fun to combine die cutting and stamping to create the scene that you want. Okay, now to create this easel card for a horizontal 5x7 card, I start with a piece of cardstock that is 10x7, and I score it at 5.5 inches, so I'm scoring it in half. Now once I have that scored in half, I'll put it back into my scoreboard, and I will score this at 2.5 inches. So now we have our horizontal 5x7 easel card. We don't need to do multiple pieces. We're able to make it out of one piece of cardstock. If you want to, you can add extra pieces of cardstock to build up the strength of it, but I'm using a very heavyweight white cardstock, so it'll be fine. Now we need to glue the 2 people on the front of the card. But again, I'm only putting glue towards the bottom half of the people because I only want to glue these on the bottom half of our easel card, below the score line that's at the center of the easel card. So I glued us on, trimmed off the excess, and now I have this little high speech balloon, and I don't want to glue them to the card, so I'm gluing them to my forehead so that when you prop up the easel card, this props up too. Notice I also used little pearls for my necklace and my earrings, just for a little bit of dimension. On my envelope, I stamped a message that says, "My dear creative sister." That's from Impression Obsession, and I thought that was perfect to send to Candace. And here you can see the completed card. Again, it's a 5x7 horizontal card. You can see all the details I have on here with the sparkle embossing powder, the pearls, and more. Now on the inside, I stamped "We Are Better Together," and I put 2 pieces of thin black cardstock, and that is just a little stopper for the easel to rest against. This way, Candace can set it on her desk on display. The "We Are Better Together" is from a stamp set from Hero Arts and Reverse Confetti, which I'll link to below. So I hope this shows you how you can make bigger size cards that are the easel feature, and the fun way that you can create a personalized card using the Missees collection. I haven't been this excited about a collection in a while, and it is really one that I can use for many occasions. Now, if you are interested in anything that I talk about in this video, it is linked in my YouTube description below, along with a link to that Facebook group that I would love to have you be a part of. If you want photos of these cards or more info, I have that over on my blog, and I'll link to that up here on the top right. In the middle are a couple other easel card videos if you're looking for more easy ideas. I thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you learned a thing or two, and we'll see you again soon.